Harassment is a very serious issue on many types of workplaces. And in fact, there is people that have been fired to being the harasser or even have been harassed by someone. It is something that many people on different workplaces don't want to be experienced. But unfortunately, it does happen. And I have my own experience which only lasted for a short time, luckily for that. If it was even close, I could have been ended up being fired or even I could have just quit. But that was thanks to two people. One being my best friend Roger, and then my then fiance, now wife, Vicky. My name is Jason. I was 20 years old when this happened. But that's pretty much all the background I will give you from this. But now, let's start with the actual event. I have been working at this office company along with my best friend Roger. People saw that we were tight, and also sometimes even called us inseparable brothers. Even though we aren't even related, but I couldn't see him as a brother. But before this all happened, there was never even a big issue for me at my workplace or even among my colleagues. But then one day, our boss in the department mentioned that the next day we will have a new employee. And it's going to be a 2-year-old older woman named Allison. After our boss had made the announcement, I could hear some of the male employees talking about this new employee the next day Allison could be like, if she's beautiful but I wasn't really much interested in that at all since I was already engaged at the time. And the next day, when we saw her, we saw this 22-year-old young woman named Allison. Shoulder long blonde hair, brown eyes. She was a beauty, but I have no interest in her whatsoever, since me and Roger already had a fiancé. And for the next few days, all the male workers was pretty much flocking around her often to ask her some questions about herself or even help her with some work. But neither me or Roger didn't do that unless it was work related. I could tell that the male staff was over the moon for Allison, but I wasn't even interested in her whatsoever about that. But for the next 2 weeks, Allison started to approach me. She even tried to talk to me first more. At first, it was just work related. But then, after 2 weeks, there was just me and her in a hallway. She tried to flirt with me. But it didn't work, even though I did notice her attempts. But I didn't even let that affect me. She even tried to once again later the same day, but she did notice that I wasn't paying attention to her flirtatious. And it made her frustrated, though I didn't even notice that. And, well, that was then happened the next day. Because the next day when I went to the office, I noticed that the other male workers looked at me with disgust and angry looks. And I was really confused on what just happened, or at least what was the cause. Luckily, Roger was in the office room department along with me. He told me to get along with him to the break room so that he could talk to me. I asked him what was going on, and he told me. And what he said shocked me. He said that Allison said to other workers when she came to the office this morning that I was harassing her because she was a beauty, that basically I was asking her out, and when she said no, I became a little bit, well, almost forcing her to do things that I wanted, but she didn't want to. And she was crying of all this. And I was, what the heck? There is no way. I did tell Roger that it didn't even happen. I did talk to her in the hallway and that she tried to flirt with me. Roger said that he did believe me. But no matter how much I would even try to convince the others in the office, it may not even have worked. Because they were so all over the moon of Allison. I mean, who would even believe me? I mean, after all, she is quite a stunning lady. So, throughout the day, I tried to do work, and even at lunch, there was still much awkward. I tried to talk to the others about work. They didn't either say much or just ignored me, even when I was getting tired of all this. So, after the day was over, I went home and I did tell my fiance Vicky, since we were living together already, of what's been happening. At least today, she was a bit concerned, but she told me maybe there was just some maybe this, if I just ignore her as much or avoid her as much, maybe the others four would eventually, well, stop acting like this and it will go back to normal. I said, hopefully. So I tried that. So for the next several days, I avoided Allison as much as possible. Only talked to her when the office if it was work related. If I saw her in the hallway or something, I immediately left. I tried to avoid her as much as possible. But if she was in the break room or in the hallway where there's a few other people, I didn't have to feel any worried about it. And even though that Vicky did tell me that this would eventually fade away or something, I wish she was right about that, but unfortunately, it didn't. Because after about a couple of days after this, well, almost a week later, I went to the break room and Allison walked in after me, and once again she tried to flirt with me. And we were the only one in the break room, and I had enough. But I knew I couldn't yell at her. Because if I yelled, there's probably would be other people in the hallway, and they probably could hear me yelling at her, and that would make them believe her story over mine even more. And I couldn't even have that. So I told her firmly, Allison, can you please stop? You can see I'm not interested in you. I'm already engaged. And I even showed her the ring on my hand. But once again, she didn't even believe me. Then I showed her a photo of me and Vicky on my phone. And I said, this is my fiancée, Vicky. So please, can you just stop acting like this to me? I want us to be colleagues, nothing more. And as that, suddenly another male worker just walked in, and Allison heard this. And on cue, she started crying, fake crying. And the male worker walked up to her and gave her a hug to comfort her. I was lost of words. How could they take her side over mine, since I have been working with them for a couple of years now, and she has just only been working for a couple of weeks? I had no idea why. And there were other female workers, and they never complained to me or anything. I was really lost of words, and these male workers told me, how dare I did you make this, what they called the Madonna or the beauty of the office, cry like this. I was soft and lost of words. I mean, I couldn't even imagine what to say. No matter what I tried to say, it wouldn't even go as much in as an evidence. So, I decided to just leave the break room. I went to my desk and just grabbed my things and told Roger that I'm getting home. I wasn't feeling well. He promised that he would call me later. And when I get home, Vicky wasn't home, but when she got home earlier, she saw that I was home already. And I told her what happened. She was getting frustrated. And I understand why. Her fiance being accused of harassment at work, which is something I never would even do. So she said that she would do something about this to stop it. And I was like, what can you do? So she took her phone out, called a number, and talked to someone on the phone. At the moment, I had no idea who she was talking to. But I would eventually later to find out who. And you might be surprised, but the next day when I went in the office, Roger asked me how I was feeling and if I felt any better. I said, yeah, I did. But at the time, I was not even sure what was going to happen afterwards. And as normal, I was just standing by my desk all alone while Roger was doing something else when, of course, a few of the male workers walked up to me and started to talk to me, telling me how I shouldn't even show up at this office because of being a harasser of the new employee. I literally had enough. So I said, look, you had known me for a couple of years, and you only known Allison for a few weeks, for maybe a month or so. Who do you even honestly believe most? Who do you even trust more, me or her? And even if there aren't any actual, I mean, you have known me for a few years now. Have you ever seen me have any other this type of problem with the other female officers, the workers? Some of the men like say no, but that doesn't mean that I wouldn't have even tried to do that things now. And since I have been always being professional, so why would I suddenly do acting out right now? And I even said, you guys know that I'm in fact already engaged. I have been engaged to my fiance for at least about 2 years. And why would I suddenly acting like this, being forcing myself almost on another woman, or at least almost forced flirtatious to another woman when I was already engaged? And also that I was planning to get married. Some of the male workers started questioning themselves about this. They understood where I was coming from. But at that the same moment, they started even asking me if I was a cheater, if I have always had this type of. I mean, okay, like last year when we had Lisa, she was a beautiful woman. She never complained anything like this. In fact, I was getting well along with her and a few others. The male workers that I was talking to looked at each other and get the much confused look, and they realized at least I was right. Since Lisa is about only a year older than me, she's still beautiful, and even though we interacted a lot, sometimes alone in the hallway or in the break room, laughing, but she never even did anything like this. But they also said that is only my word against hers, of course. And sure enough. So what else to do? I just told them, if you prefer to be believing in Allison over my word, that's fine. I'm not literally forcing them to believe in anything I tell them. They just nodded and they left. I realized maybe that they didn't believe me at all, but at least I had what I wanted to tell them. But then, Allison walked in. She cried and said I had once again harassed her in the hallway just before work started. I just rolled my eyes and realized it was pointless. Even then, I was so tired of these harassments. Because even when she was just standing there fake crying again, I really just ignored her. Because I could see the other male workers, not the one I talked to earlier, that they looked at me with disgust, almost an angry. But I just ignored it and brushed it off and kept working. It wasn't until like lunchtime when it was just me and Allison in the office. The others were in the cafeteria to get something to eat. She told me that how can I ignore her as such beauty? But I told her I'm engaged. Would I, why would I even try to do something with her when I was already with someone else? But she told me that I could have her in the secret while being engaged to my fiance. I lost it. I was really frustrated, but I didn't say anything. I just went to my desk and sit down, and then some of the male workers walked in, and once again she started crying. But one of them was actually Roger, and he said, Elisa, I don't even believe what you're saying. She even looked at him while still crying. How dare you? He harassed me while you were gone. But then, suddenly, there was a call, at least a phone call on my desk. And I was like, yes, this is Jason. Yeah, she's here. And I handed the phone to Allison. It's like, Allison, you have a call, and it's the CEO. She was stunned. She didn't even expecting a call from the actual CEO, the owner of the company. She was called to his office, and even the male workers was actually kind of who looked a bit angry. But then when they heard the CEO, they were actually stunned to see, or well, just why would she summon to the CEO's office and not me? But she was in the office and she talked to the CEO about what happened. And this was why I heard from Elise, the CEO, afterwards. Like, he said, it brought me attention that you have been harassed by a male worker. Is that correct? She nodded and said yes. So, tell me exactly detail what he had been doing and said. And she started telling them exactly what I supposed to have been said or done to her. Like almost forcing her to go out with me, and I was, well, attracted to her. And and I even mentioned I had a fiance, but I wouldn't mind to have a secret mistress by the side. And after he was finished listening, he called me in. And then once again, she tried to put the blame on me, but the CEO said, don't lie about this. Everything you told me is a complete lie. There's no way you can put the blame on that. She started crying and said, how could he not believe her over me? But then he said, well, because of this. And then he turned his computer screen, and there was actually a video from the security camera from the office just before she was summoned to the office. And the cameras also have audio. She was stunned and went completely ghostly pale. He said, I have more of this. I have camera recordings from the hallways for the past few weeks. And I had this because my daughter told me about this. Your daughter? Yes. His daughter was actually Vicky, my fiance. And it's true. And there was another thing to this. I was not only an employee, but for the past couple of months before Allison started working, I have been approached by the CEO to be the next one after he retired. So I have been given some secret training in order to become the next CEO, like management and all that. Even though in the beginning I wasn't much okay with it, I thought maybe that Vicky could be doing it because she had all the training already, but she wasn't interested in being the next CEO, so I decided to do that. And she went then a lot more pale. And then I got the most shocking discovery. Allison, I had even reached out to your old workplace. You did? Yes. I actually find out after some digging, you had done the same thing over there. And I am honestly in surprise. And I cannot believe otherwise. That you would even accuse Jason, my future son-in-law, for something he never do. And there's no way you can even deny all that. This evidence that I have is proof enough. From this very moment, you are fired. She started crying real tears. After that, she left the office and literally the building. When I got back to the office department I was working at, the male workers just looked at me, first angrily. What did I do? I told them exactly. And I even was show them a photo, at least a recording of that moment when she told me to be her secret lover. But this all heard saw that they lost all hope. Even after all that, they even apologized to me how they behaved to me, believed over her than me. And I said they were not the one to blame. I understand if they believed her because she was crying and was a good performer. And, well, let's say after that happened, the atmosphere in the office was a bit awkward for just about a while afterwards. But after about a couple of weeks, everything was back to normal. We had a new hire. This time it was also a young lady, around the same age, but I'd say she was complete normal. In fact, she was already married, and, well, she was told what happened, and she was even surprised and said, she's like, oh man, really? How could anyone even be like that? Because after a while, she got to know me a bit better, and she said I was a real sweet guy. And that I really appreciated that comment. And about a year later, me and Vicky finally got married, and it also around after the wedding, it was an announcement that I will be the next CEO, which completely surprised everyone. If Allison would still be there, would she try to flirt with me more? To know that I was just gonna be the new CEO and she was hoping to be the CEO's mistress? More likely. But at least I am glad that her acting was caught before all that. What happened to Allison afterwards? Well, last I heard, she was working at a grocery store. I saw her a few times, but unfortunately, or at least luckily, she never saw me. But that was the least I heard and saw of her, but I'm glad that I never had to see her at the office anymore. So yeah, this is my story when I was harassed at my work. Thank you all for listening. Thank you.